This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Haslet HCEDC Type B meeting, Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. And I open the meeting at 6:30 p.m. We do have a quorum present. Item number 2, administer statement of officer and oath of office to the appointed members.
Okay, everybody who's getting appointed or reappointed, you should have your statement and oath in front of you. Perfect. So we're going to say it together, so if you would please stand up. We're going to go ahead and start with the statement of appointed officer. So, I state your name.
Kitty Wurtz, do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money of thing of value, or promised any public office or appointment as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof. So help me God. Beautiful. On the next page is your oath of office. So I
Kitty Wurtz, do solemnly swear
that I
or
will
affirm
faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of board member of Haslet Community and Economic Development Corporation for the City of Haslet, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Beautiful, thank you. If you don't have a pen, that's okay. I have a pen, we can sign after the meeting.
Okay, moving along to item number 3, citizens' participation and comments. Do we have anyone online or in the chamber that would like to make any comment?
We do have an email to be read.
Okay, if you'd like to go ahead and read that.
This is from Tony Marlowe. He did not give his address. He said, I wanted to say how disappointed I am in this board's action in getting Frank Gatto voted out, especially the HCEDC B president, since she is the one that sent his name to the council. I think the president of the board needs to step down.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to item number 4, items of community interest. National Night Out will be held Tuesday, October 7th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Haslet Community Park. And there's a link on the website for National Night Out for more information. 4.2 bulk trash pickup is now being picked up on the 1st and the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. And before the board, we have our HCEDC minutes of June the 4th, 2025, our HCEDC minutes of our July 23rd meeting, our special meeting that was on July 28th minutes, And then we have our financial statement for the month of August. So I'll open it to the board. Do we have any discussion on any attached documents? Okay, if no discussion, I ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the June 4th, July 23rd, July 28th regular meeting and special meeting minutes in addition to the August 2025 financial report.
Okay, I have a motion. I ask for a second. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, I would ask for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Board. Okay, item number 6, reports and presentations. Development report for September 2025. Mr. Swanky, can you help us out with that?
I surely can. Could you let me have the screen for a second or two? Let me blow this up just a little bit. There's actually quite a bit going on in the city. You know, the first slide just represents one of the houses that I took a picture of. And each month I do a report, I'll do a different house, but this one is one I took. It's a fairly substantial house. And we have current permits active at 85 and permits that are under review are 9. When it says under review, that means they have not been issued yet, but they're in the process of being reviewed and approved. Commercially, we have several office buildings that are being constructed. And one's it's a shell office building at 480 FM 156, and that's right behind the women's clinic. And then behind that, there's another office building going up. And then we have, to the right of that, we have a picture of the post office. The foundation has been poured. The next picture is 1096 Schoolhouse, and it's a shell office building, and there are 2 suites in there, and one of them has an occupant already. One lease is it's already leased out. Then we have on the bottom right of we have a picture of the QT that's going up at the corner of Harmon and Haslet Parkway. And then the next picture on the left is an entrance going in to the Heritage Baptist Church. Then on the right, I went in and talked to the owner of the Mai Tai restaurant, and he says they were planning at the time opening up in about 2 weeks. They had some work still to do on the overhead evacuation system for smoke and stuff, but they were estimating it was going to be 2 weeks. So hopefully they'll be up soon. But on their door, they have a menu that you can go take a picture of and go scan and look at what they're going to be serving. But it really looks nice on the inside. Industrial activity down on Pass Drive, just west of Harmon Road and east of Intermodal. We have 3 industrial buildings going up. And in the past, you've seen some of the site work, but now we've got walls that are going up on at least 2 of the buildings. This one is just the building that is next to Pass Drive, but they have one that's a lot of the walls are going up on the Haslet Parkway. And then finally, we have there's a lot of work going on at Community Park. Has to do with drainage, and there are things in the background. I didn't drive into the park to get a close picture, but the next time you'll see some close-up pictures. I've got permission to drive in there from our Public Works Director, so I'll go in there and get some close-up of what's going on. And then on the right, it says Powers for Signals at Keller Haslet Road. This is a project that's been going on for quite a while, and actually they're going to hang from those poles the signals for that intersection. And so that project's coming right along. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Do you have any projected completion for the Haslet Road, the light signals being installed?
It's my understanding it's going to be several months before it's all opened up and ready to go. there's just a lot of work to do there, and also there'll be some work to do where it intersects with North Main Street. And there'll be a name change coming up for that too, because right now it's got a different name.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Swanky? Is there any assistance this board can do for you, Mr. Swanky, on any of the economic development projects?
Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, if no further questions, then we'll move to item number 7. Discuss, consider, and act regarding all properties and property management reports. For 7.1 and 7.3, the Westport Parkway and the Schoolhouse Road, we have no new information to add to that discussion tonight.
I'd like to make a comment on 7.2, 210 Main Street. Okay?
Go ahead.
In our meeting in July, Mrs. Parker made some comments dealing with the previous realtor, and I just have been a part of that real estate group and kind of doubted some of the comments, so I followed up to verify. And I personally contacted Mr. Brown, pardon me, of the Charlie Brown Realty Group, which is part of Keller Williams, and I asked that he watch the video of our meeting and see if that accurately measured or accurately reported his conversation with Mrs. Parker. And he did watch the conversation. He contacted me back and said that it was not true. He said that the comments Mrs. Parker made were strongly overemphasized his conversation, and that he never stated Mrs. Wurtz to be the worst client he had ever worked with in all the years. He also stated the third realtor, Mustafa, who he said, I think Ms. Parker referred to as Moose, wasn't involved in the Haslet project and didn't know about the board. So he didn't really want to be involved, but he said you're welcome to contact him to verify any information. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to suspend all activity on this property until March, and that includes anything to do with the sale or any deeding of the property or anything at all in relation to the business regarding this property.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second to postpone all activity on the 210 Main Street property until after March of 2026. I'll call for a vote from the board. All those in favor? Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed? We've got 1 opposed. Thank you, board. Moving to item 8, action items. Discuss, consider, and act to establish guidelines for the agenda process. And I gave the board members a handout that I'd like to read into the public record. I went to several cities surrounding us to find out what best practices are for actually formalizing an agenda-setting process. We also asked some of the boards internally, and this is a compilation of some of those responses. And I'll read through it and let you know what it says. But one of the our cities was Roanoke and Justin, who gave me comments back, and North Lake did not give us comments back. So those were the 3 that were approached. The 89th Texas Legislature passed House Bill 1522 effective September 1st, 2025. This act changed the posting requirements for an agenda from 72 hours prior to the meeting date to 3 days prior in front of the meeting date. The following stipulations relate to this agenda for the HCEDC Type B board meetings. The city shall comply, item number 1, the city shall comply with all notice requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code as may be amended. Item number 2, the city secretary, city clerk, shall be responsible for preparing the agenda for HCEDC Board Commission meetings and other special meetings as needed. The President may determine which items to include in the agenda, provided that the City Secretary Clerk shall include any items requested by the board members, the commissioners, the City Council members, or City staff after it's been reviewed by the President. Board members and commissioners shall submit requests to the President by 9 a.m. at least 14 business days prior to the day of the meeting. The President shall then submit these items to the City Secretary Clerk by 3 p.m. at least 14 business days prior to the day of the meeting. The President has the discretion of including or omitting items when an agenda item is not ready. An example would be if the city town manager is unaware that an agenda item may be, or is aware an agenda item may be sensitive or not ready to be made public, or if more research on the agenda item needs to be done. A citizen may request inclusion on the agenda by submitting a request in writing to the City Secretary Clerk at least 15 business days prior to the day of the meeting. The Secretary Clerk will provide the information back to the President. The requested item may be included on the agenda at the President's discretion or held over to the next meeting if more work is needed to bring the item to the public. To prevent the President from not authorizing an agenda item within a reasonable amount of time, the HCEDC Board can ask for a future agenda item be brought to the next meeting by taking a vote of the full board with a majority rule decision. If the item fails, it will not become a future agenda item. The City Secretary Clerk shall post the agenda at least 3 business days prior to the meeting, except as otherwise allowed by the Texas Open Meetings Act. The City Secretary Clerk shall not make changes to the agenda in less than 4 business days prior to the meeting. Items submitted to the City Secretary Clerk less than 4 business days prior to the meeting shall not be included, but could be considered for future agenda topics. This provision shall not apply to emergencies as determined by the mayor. Upon the motion of the President or presiding officer or any board member commissioner, the HCEDC Board Commission may elect to table an agenda item by the affirmative vote of a majority of the board members and commissioners present at the meeting. The last page is actually about the actual agenda and not necessarily about the process. And so item number 1, all board members and commissioners may submit agenda items. Items must reach the City Secretary Clerk by 5 p.m. Tuesday, 15 days prior to a regular meeting. The President may exercise the President's best judgment in determining what order items of business shall come before the board members and commission. The board members and commission at regular meetings may by majority vote to place items on the agenda for future meetings. Packets. The President, board members and commissioners, and the city attorney shall be provided with agenda packets for all regular meetings. These packets will be available at City Hall after 3 p.m. the Thursday preceding the regular meeting. To the extent possible, packets information can be emailed to the President or board members and commissioners upon request. The President, at the President's discretion, may extend these deadlines when necessary. And I wanted to present this to the board. This is just a draft and a suggestion that we follow based on the new guidelines of how the agenda is to be published in advance of a meeting. And also, I suggest that we just follow these guidelines for a few months, see how it works out for the board, and then you'll note here in red, it says the city agenda setting procedures are oftentimes part of a comprehensive policy manual adopted by ordinance or resolution by cities. And And if we indeed choose to say that this is working for us, then we can codify it into our bylaws and make it part of our true procedures. So I just wanted to share that. I don't think there's any actions to be taken on this item tonight other than to present it to you. And if you have any questions, I'm open to questions.
Let's see, so you were suggesting maybe we try this for a couple of months and then take input from everybody and see what they feel about it and if there's any changes needed?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And all input is welcome. Okay, any other comments? Any other suggestions at this point? If not, we'll move on to item 8.2. Discuss, consider, and act to adopt a project to reimburse the city $20,000 for initiation dues to rejoin the Metroport Chamber of Commerce. And this item was Mr. Swanky, do you have something
Yes.
you'd like to comment on?
Yeah, I have a PowerPoint presentation on the next three items, 2, 3, and 4 of Section 8. And so I'm just going to run through them. I can run through them one at a time, and then we'll pause, and then we'll go on to the next one.
That sounds like a perfect plan. Thank you.
I just want to start off by identifying, can you let me have the screen, please? What the process is when this board decides to adopt a project, it's just not automatically you just go forward with it. It's got to go to the city council, and then it needs to come back to this board. And so this is pretty much the schedule for it. There are some things we can do away with, like the second idea is the preliminary engineering cost. Well, some of these things don't have an engineering element to them, so you just bypass that. Such as this project right here. There's nothing to engineer. This is a discuss and adopt a project to reimburse the city for initiation dues to rejoin the Metroport Chamber of Commerce. And these are the cities that are in that Chamber of Commerce, all the way from Argyle to Haslet, Westlake, Trophy Club, Roanoke, Northlake, and Justin. And there was a little celebration and ribbon cutting for that, and several of our board members were there at that, including the mayor. And the cost of that project is $20,000, which the city has already paid, and this would be a reimbursement to the city for that cost.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Swanky. We have ample funds in our budget to be able to handle this, and this was a request made to us by City Council. So I open it up to the board. Is there any questions, any comments from anyone?
Is this an annual membership?
It's this large, first time around, because of a rejoining fee. Is that not
That's
right,
correct.
Mr. Swanky?
That's correct. It's a rejoining fee, and I believe the annual fee is like $12,000.
I think we included this in our, I'm fairly certain we included this in as a line item in our budget. So we knew we wanted to join again when we were going through the budget process.
So you're saying that the membership lapsed, and so there's a reinstatement fee that's greater than the annual fee?
If memory serves me right, it's been about 10 or 15 years since we've been involved with this organization.
Not quite that long, Mr. Swanky. I think it's been 3 years, and this fee is for the whole city. This is not our expense. Just to make that clear, that's not our board's expense. This is the expense for the whole city to rejoin the Chamber of Commerce, the Metroport Chamber of Commerce. And as Mr. Swanky was saying, next year it will drop down to $12,000.
But who will be responsible next year?
That will be determined next year. This is just the city asking us to participate to help with the fee because it was such a large fee. Other questions? If not, then I would ask for a motion.
So we're not responsible for that complete fee, correct?
We are. What we're asking this board to do is authorize a transfer of $20,000 over to the city council's budget. They've already paid this fee, and this is a reinstatement, a reimbursement to them for their out-of-pocket fee. Other questions? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward and approve this transfer of funds to reimburse the city for the membership
Of $20,000.
of $20,000.
Okay, I'll ask for a second. Okay, we have a second. Okay, I ask for a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. It's unanimous. Thank you, board. Okay, item 8.3, discuss, consider, and act adopting a project to replace all playground equipment and safety fall zone coverings in Community Park and Natsville, the same as an all-inclusive playground in Grammel Park, with an estimated cost of $500,000. Mr. Swanky.
Chairman, this is a picture of Community Park, which is just to the south of where we're sitting right now. And I'm going to show some pictures of some of the facilities that we have there. It's got the fall zones on them, and it's got equipment, which is, it's starting to age, and I got a date on it here we'll show pretty soon. Those are some horseshoe pits, some more swings and fall zone. And it was built in 2007, and so it's 18 years old. Just another picture of it. You can see some of the materials there that are getting walled out. There's also another park facility that we have in town, and it's over at Nance Field, and it's located to the east of the parking lot and south of the ball fields. And this is a picture of that playground. And I don't know how old it is. This is the surfaces that are in Gamil Park, which they want to imitate as far as the surface. Instead of being materials that can be kicked around and pushed off and end up in the grass, this would be something that would be more permanent in nature. It's a little closer view of it. And the price that I have for that is $500,000.
Okay, all right, so any questions for Mr. Swanky on any of this information?
I'm assuming the fall zone is strictly the ground coverage, right?
What it is, right? Yeah, it's the ground that covers underneath the play equipment. You know, right now it's called engineered wood fiber. And,
It looked like mulch.
Well, it basically is, except they have some standards when they bring it in. They bring it in big truckloads usually, and as long as the pieces are less than 4 inches in length, it can be considered that. But it's technically called engineered wood fibers. So I don't know where they got that name. That's just what it's called.
Mr. Swanky, could you kind of talk to the last playground update that the park board adopted 2 years ago, right there at Gamble Park? The replacement of the swings and the process that they went through?
I cannot. I'm not familiar with that because that was before me when they went through that process.
Sorry, I thought you were here at that point in time. Okay.
Okay,
Other
so
questions?
Let me ask, with the Gamble Park, they replaced the playground equipment, they replaced the fall zone. it was estimated $85,000. That was for everything. So we're doing this for 2 parks, Community Park and Mansfield, and they want $500,000?
The actual square foot size is much, much larger, correct, Mr. Swanky? I want to say the larger park, which is to the west of the covered pavilion, is something probably close to 4,000 square feet. I'm not sure 100%. And obviously the details of that will be identified as the project shapes up and becomes more clear to us. But it is much, much larger than the swing area in Gamble Park, probably by about 3 times as large. And then the one in Nancefield is maybe double the size. So yes, the price tag can add up quite substantially. I've also been told that the fall zone area can be almost as expensive as the equipment itself that gets replaced. So just kind of giving, maybe Mr. Swanky, you know more about this than I do.
You know, my experience with parks is quite a bit, actually. I've been involved in a lot of parks, and usually what I would do with a park system like this, I would identify 3 or 4 reputable companies and have them submit proposals and bids to come up with this. So I would think that the 500,000 may be an outside, not to exceed type number, but there may be some cost savings in there after we start looking at the equipment that's being offered, because it changes every year, you know, what's being offered. There are new pieces that you can add. And the Gamel Park is a little bit different. It's for younger children, and it's a smaller apparatus, while Community Park is larger, and so there would be a little bit more cost involved with that. But Ms. Wurtz is right. The fall zone will be quite expensive when you go to a surface instead of just the engineered wood fiber / mulch.
And one of the things that we might want to keep in mind is we're talking about a 20-year asset. That's approximately the lifespan of what we might expect, correct, Mr. Swanky?
That's right. That's what it would be if you don't use any red on your playground. You need to use the greens and the yellows and the lighter shades. If you use red, that's a no-no in Texas underneath our sun, because they start deteriorating right away. So you just need to pick and choose what you want to use and some of the materials to really get your money's worth over the course of time.
And I'm sure this project is rather a large one, and we might all have a lot of questions. So I don't want everyone to think that this is a decision that just falls on us. As Mr. Swanky said, we would have several vendors to come in and talk to us and lay out a design. But I'm also thinking we will have some people from the park board or some other people with some expertise to come talk with us about what they did, because they did just replace, as Ms. Parker noted, a playground in Gamble Park that was right at the $80,000 price range. So they have some experience in this process as well.
And just a note, there is a conference coming up in October. It's called Texas Municipal League, and every vendor of park equipment is going to be there. I have been going every year for quite a while to that, and it might be good for one or two members of this board to actually go and walk through the equipment and just to see what's available, because like I say, it changes every year. And it's a good conference to go to, because these are vendors from all over the state, and every city in Texas usually sends some representative there, and sometimes whole councils go to these things, and they walk through and see what's going on, all the way from waste water equipment to playgrounds to anything that you'd ever want in a city. Fire trucks, you know, they have them pulled in there and they'll show them. The lucky thing about this year, it's in Fort Worth. So it's not a big travel expense. And you can go by and see all the vendors through there in a one-day thing.
Very nice. That's great, great news, Mr. Swanky. Thank you.
Is it open to anybody?
It's open to anybody, but you got to pay a fee. There's an entrance fee to go there.
I wanted to know, does the equipment have to be replaced with the fall zone? Or could you keep the equipment?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure there's some ways that you could keep it, but if you keep the equipment, there's going to be a lot of seams where all the posts go into the ground instead of just like where a post for a swing set would go into it. You'd have to make a slit, or either that or take the equipment apart and then reassemble it.
Okay. Do we have to approve an amount, or can we approve this as a project? Because I'm not real comfortable with just approving it without having any backup or any quotes or whatnot.
And that's one thing you could do is say, let's back off on this one, and let's go ahead and get our people, our vendors, and look at them and see what we really want.
One of the things, though, that we have to keep in mind is we can't move forward as a board without city council approval. So again, this is not just our decision. City council will be authorizing it, and the 500,000 is just a budget number. Think of it that way. Doesn't mean that we have to spend 500,000. But if what the next step would be is we would have to have a resolution drafted by our lawyer to allow it to go before city council. And then city council authorizes it. And we really wouldn't want to do a lot of work unless we know it's authorized. Is that correct, Mr. Swanky?
That's the best way. And there's other people that need to be involved in this. The Parks Board needs to be involved in it too, just not this board.
Yes, that's why I suggested we have Parks Board members come to us and talk to us about it as well.
Could you go back to the diagram you had of the order of how projects are? Okay, so when it comes back to us, is that when we form a committee?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We would draft the resolution. It goes before City Council, item number 3, and City Council authorizes it. And item number 4, then we come back and form a committee of a smaller group to work on the initial gathering of the information, which it will be quite a large amount of information, and they work it through their group and bring it before the board for full consideration. But there might be a lot of back and forth during that process whereby we have other board members come before us as the Parks Board to give us input. So it's not a decision that this board solely makes without a lot of inputs from various people, and that's staff as well. Correct, Mr. Swanky?
That's correct.
The 500,000 is just a placeholder. Doesn't mean that we're going to spend that much, but we don't want to give too low of a number and then have to go back and ask for a budget amendment, if that makes sense to everybody. Other questions?
I have a question. So this process, this 500,000 that we might have to pay, is this looking at like a 2025, 2026 budget? Like when would this expenditure fall?
Well, it wouldn't actually come to be until we made a decision and picked a vendor and started the process. And I'm not sure what our timeline will be.
I'm sure it's going to be in '26 when the actual funds would need to be expended, because it's going to take a while. Just when you have this meeting here, then it goes back to the city council, and that's going to take probably 3 or 4 weeks, and then it comes back here, because this board only meets once a month. And especially with the holidays coming up, the council usually only meets once a month. So if you don't get something in the middle of the month for them, then it's going to be a whole nother month. So some of it depends upon how fast we can get the attorney to generate the resolutions, which shouldn't take too long. But there's some timing issues that we to make sure. But I would say a safe bet would be '26.
And just to give everybody a little comfort level for our new members, if you haven't really looked at our budget and the amount of money that we have, we're upward close to $5 million. So we have ample funds to take on this expenditure.
And it continues to grow.
It continues to grow. So just giving everybody some kind of idea of how it is. Other questions? Okay. If we have no further questions, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the project to replace all playground equipment and safety fall zone coverings in Community Park and Nance Field with estimated cost of $500,000.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Board. Okay, moving on to 8.4. Discuss, consider, and act to adopt a project to install asphalt in the parking lot at Nance Baseball Field with an estimated cost of $200,000. Mr. Swanky.
Chairman Wurtz, this is 8.4 on your agenda, and this is the location of the parking lot. If you've been out there, you'll notice that it's gravel over the trail system that's in front of it. There's a lot of gravel that's always over it, so it can be, trip hazards just on the trail. And this is just a little bit further up look. And during inclement weather, it becomes really hazardous just getting up to the parking lot, with the wet gravel, etc. And this is a picture of the whole thing that was done back a long time ago by our engineer, Belcher and Associates. But they did a little layout, and of course this layout was done back in 2002, and the city standards have changed just a little bit, so it can't be quite like this, but this is what we're basically looking at. And on the far end of it, let me just back up, you can see at the top, this is where the playground that we've already looked at. And so this parking would serve not only the ball fields, but the parking for the playground. And the reason why I say it's going to have to change, if you look just to the north, this is up at the school, you'll see some little islands out there where there's trees. This is the same thing that we're going to have to do in this parking lot just to meet city standards, because every 10 spaces, parking spaces, you have to have a tree. That's just the way our ordinance reads. And so we're subject to our own ordinances, and so we're going to have to do that. So that's why I say this is going to have to be redesigned. We might lose a couple spots, but it'll look really nice once it's done. And like was mentioned, the estimated cost is $200,000. And this is one of those projects, when you get down to the bottom, we'll turn it over to our engineer, and he'll actually come up with a hard number, and then they'll put it out to bid, and they'll get quotes, what it's going to cost, and We had a bid opening today, and there were some people that were right on the money for the estimate, and there were some that were like twice as high, and there was one that was incredibly low. And so, you know, you have to look at everything when you get these bids, you know, who's qualified to do it, and why are they too high, and why are they too low. Sometimes the high ones are because they don't need the work. And so if you choose them, they'll do it, but they really don't need to work, so they really just bid it high. Sometimes the low ones, they miss something in their bid package, and of course those are the things when you go through the bid process, you figure out why did they get it that low. And sometimes companies are just hungry and they're willing to do anything because they haven't been getting any work. And then the question comes, why? So those are the things that the engineer will look at, and he'll go through the bidding process, and we'll carry it forward from there once we secure the bids.
Could you back up and show the picture again, the parking lot with the trees? I was wondering, was that asphalt or was that concrete?
That actually appears to be concrete because it looks like there's saw marks on it.
And actually, that parking lot was put in by the school, correct?
Yes.
Yes. We will be doing the opposite side, where the gravel was.
Can you speak to the difference between concrete and asphalt and why asphalt was chosen?
I don't know why it was chosen over concrete. Concrete, in my opinion, is a better long-term time solution. Sometimes asphalt is a lot cheaper, and however, over the course of time, you know, it's either pay me now or pay me later type situation. Asphalt can be very good if you have a very good base underneath of it. And most of the time, if you use a TXDOT base, and then you have up to 4 inches of asphalt on top, it'll last, and it'll be a very good surface. But if you don't do it right underneath, then it's can be problematic. Asphalt, some of the things that people don't understand about asphalt and why streets deteriorate, and some of it is they would be just fine if there was more traffic on them. The thing about asphalt is it has to get that motion of, you know, cars going over it that squeeze it. It keeps the chemicals hot in the asphalt, and they will tend to, a street that's used heavier than a street that's not. A street that doesn't have the traffic on it dries out, and it starts cracking. And then you have what's called alligatoring, and then you have potholes where those chunks come out. Well, in concrete, you don't have that problem. So concrete, long term, it's better. Short term, asphalt is cheaper.
Can I ask you regarding the asphalt, are they doing an overlay, or are they going to remove all the gravel, bring in fresh dirt?
That's one of the things when the engineer gets a hold of the project, they'll engineer it and decide. They'll probably do potholes out there and find out what's underground, what's in that parking lot right now. Sometimes the base is adequate, but without doing the testing on it, you just don't know.
But to answer your question, Laura, asphalt is a low cost, but very high maintenance, okay? In the summertime, it gets hot, and it attracts heat, because it's a bituminous base. I don't know how to explain that. So it heats up, and it'll tend to crack. And when it starts to heat up, and if you would say start to melt, that's when the black will come up, like on your tires or your shoes. So that's why I was asking, is it an overlay, or are we going to get rid of all the gravel, come in with fresh dirt, and then put it down?
And I think that's something this board will ultimately have an opportunity to look at in greater detail. Just to give some background information, again, this was discussed in the budget meeting for the city, and it was identified as a project that the mayor and the council wanted to have done. And the mayor suggested it be asphalt because I think he was going to do an interlocal agreement with the county to actually come in and provide the labor to do the work. And that's why the estimate is as low as the 200,000. If we decide as a board that we want to go to concrete, I'm not sure what concrete costs are, but I would expect to double it if not more. Mr. Swanky, do you have any idea?
It may, I don't know at this point, but there is a lot of work that goes into the concrete. You know, you have not only the materials, but you have, you know, like the rebar and
Right.
stuff like that, and the subsoil preparation. The subsoil preparation is probably the most important thing in either application.
Right, and I think the asphalt aspect with the county is very similar to what's been done at the baseball fields behind the fire station. Is that correct, Mr. Swanky? That's how that was done?
I don't know who did that one.
Okay. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a reference and a little bit of background. You can certainly go back and look at, you know, that budget meeting, but that was something identified that the city really wanted to move forward with. And then we were asked as the board to take on this project.
Actually, I was thinking 200,000 was too high. It's 19,000 square feet is Nancefield parking lot. And if they do just the overlay, you're looking at roughly $2.50 to $3 a square foot. So that's going to give you roughly $47,500 to $57,000. That's overlay. That's without pulling out the gravel and coming back with fresh dirt, because we don't have any idea what they want to do.
And so is that with the assistance of Tarrant County or?
That's just the asphalt. Laying
Just
down,
the- just-
laying down the asphalt.
Well, I can't speak to cost yet because that's something that as we talk to vendors and do the investigative work, I think we'll find out. Mr. Swanky, just having the engineering group look at this parking lot, I think when we looked at paving Hurley Street parking lot, which was much, much smaller, probably a quarter of the size of this one, just our engineering cost alone was $5,000. So I'm not sure what the engineering cost will be on this one, but again, keep in mind, this is only a budget number. Does not mean that we'll be spending that amount of money if indeed it can come in much less. It's just, when we have to go before City Council and ask for authorization to proceed forward with a project, we have to give them a price range that is reasonable. Otherwise, we'll have to go back and ask for an amendment. And this was a figure that Mayor Holsey actually came up with. I think he originally came up with 175,000, and then I adjusted it slightly for the engineering cost. So again, it's only a budget figure.
Well, it seems like if the mayor had this conversation, he should have a pretty good idea on what the cost is. I get concerned with it's only a budget number, because most people tend to spend their budget. What did you say the square footage of the parking lot? I agree with you. That feels incredibly expensive for asphalt. We're putting asphalt where there's baseball fields, so in the summer, cleats will dig into it. We get back to maintenance. We should expect we have young children. They won't be able to walk on asphalt in the summer. I'm not a big fan of asphalt in this application.
And you know what? I'm really not either. So we might have to go to look at concrete, but that will be something that will be uncovered.
Yeah, based on what you said, Mr. Schwanke, it just sounded like if this wasn't going to be used constantly, because it's a parking lot and it's going to be on weekends, I guess they do have practices out there. I thought concrete when you were explaining the use case.
Like I mentioned, I like concrete myself, but I didn't come up with the numbers or the materials, so.
Because this is just baseball fields, movie in the park. Am I right, Mansfield? I mean, that's all that's there at Mansfield is baseball games.
And
like we
playground.
just had the movie in the park. So it's not constantly used 365 days, 360 days a year.
No, and except there's a park back here, so it's used a little bit more than just ball fields. But
Okay.
Is there a way we can approve the motion but take out the word asphalt? Or do we need to like go from the beginning, like restart?
I think we probably take out the word asphalt, and just leave that material open. I'm not sure that 200,000 would cover. I'm not sure 200,000 would cover the concrete, if that's the way we go. So we can certainly do that and adopt the project and leave, we have to have an amount. So if it's 200,000 and it becomes more than that, then we just go through a budget adjustment. So certainly, I think we can just leave the material out of the motion and just adopt the project to move forward, which would do engineering, and then we start looking at which materials we want to use.
yeah, there was actually a step that was skipped. And if you look at the chart again, you got your idea what you want to do, and that idea was given by the city council. But the next step is preliminary engineering cost, and that's something we don't have at this point.
True. So city council may even at the time that they review this project say, we don't want asphalt. They may reconsider and say, we prefer your board go ahead and concrete the lot. And instead of authorizing us 200,000, they may authorize us 400,000.
I'd like to entertain the thought of modifying a motion to replace asphalt with concrete and go back to city council and have the engineering for concrete. What do y'all think of that?
Yeah, just go ahead and include the concrete up front and then modify it later if we need to. Okay.
I think we're shaking our heads.
Okay, so I want to make a motion that we amend 8.4 to adopt a project to install concrete in a parking lot at Nance Baseball Field with estimated cost of $200,000.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt this as a project to install concrete in the parking lot at Nance Baseball Field with an estimated cost of $200,000. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. I call for the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Board. Okay, 8.5, discuss, consider, and act to approve the HCEDC meeting schedule. If you could bring up the hyperlink. Okay, what we are looking at here is the meeting schedule for the remainder of 2025 and through to January 2026. All meetings are normally held on the fourth Wednesday of each month, but for the next 3 months, would like to move the meeting to the third Wednesday of the month. So it would be October 15th, 2025 would be our next meeting. November 19th we would do our meeting on November 19th due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And then our December meeting will be December 17th, again, due to the Christmas holiday. And then thereafter is a listing of all the months going forward, which is the fourth Wednesday of each month, until we get to the November and the holiday season again. So I'd like to have a motion if this is agreeable to everybody.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the revised meeting schedule for the remainder of the year. And then into next year as well.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the HCC meeting schedule as presented. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. I have a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Board. Okay, there is no reason for an executive session tonight. Do we have any future agenda items anyone wants to bring up? Okay, no future agenda items, then I call this meeting adjourned at 7:32.
This conference is no longer being recorded.